Alongside a good final boss, the most important thing to leave a player satisfied after beating a game is a good ending. Great endings to video games can be satisfying, intriguing, or just plain beautiful. And I'm here to count down the best of the best in terms of video game endings. Now obviously this is all just my personal opinion, so if you disagree with me on it, that's fine. Rules for this list are same as always, one per franchise and only games I've played. And even though this is pretty dang obvious, I might as well say it anyway. There will be spoilers on this list. So if you got a problem with that, then honestly, why'd you click on the video in the first place? With all that said, let's begin. Let's start this list off with something relatively silly. Battleblock Theater, anyone? Now, being serious is not really a concern that Battleblock Theater has at any point in the game, which is what makes the ending such a drastic and admittedly pretty strange turn. Basically, the story of the game is that you're trapped in a theater run by a bunch of cats, and you need to save all your friends, and your best friend, Hattie Haddington, has been brainwashed into running the place. Saving Hattie has essentially been the main end goal of the entire game. However, when you finally make it to Hattie, he won't move, so you'll have to carry him out yourself. And while you do it, you can see all your friends rebelling against the cats and, well, killing them. However, when you get back on the boat, you notice that Hattie's changed. He can't even move. He's essentially been rendered a vegetable by Perham's hat, supposedly. It's arguably made even sadder by the usually comedic narrator.
But Hattie wasn't his normal jovial self anymore, children. He didn't say a word. He didn't even respond to hugs. Freaking hugs! He loves hugs!
The funny part is, this was already hinted at earlier when the narrator mentioned that Hattie wasn't really doing anything to help the theater. And if he's paralyzed, there isn't really anything that he can do to help the theater. Except for this, apparently. I'm just going to assume that it's part of the hat's mind control. The game then sends you off with a pretty sad song about how you couldn't save Hattie in time and now his life's ruined forever. Dang, I really didn't expect such a funny game like Battleblock Theater to end on such a sad note. Oh wait, it doesn't, because this happens right after the credits.
So your best friend's a vegetable now, blah blah blah. But you know what they say, when life gives you potatoes, you make potato salad. And I got just the recipe. Hit it! Buckle your pants, buckle your pants. Pull up your socks and dance!
And see, that's what I like about this ending. Leave it to Battleblock Theater to trick you into thinking that they have a sad ending, just to throw in some random musical number that doesn't connect to anything at the last minute. Now, the way I just said that might make this seem like a bad thing, and it would be if it were a game like Bioshock that's obviously taking itself seriously. This is Battleblock Theater we're talking about. Pulling a troll move like this is just something that the game would do. And the song itself is pretty funny, if for nothing else other than just how nonsensical, random, and out of nowhere it is. Oh, and I guess Perham's hat hitting the bottom of the ocean broke the curse or something. I honestly don't know. The plot of Costume Quest 2 centers a lot around time travel. Basically, the villain is an evil dentist who uses time travel to create a dystopian future where he's the ruler and Halloween is outlawed. Now, obviously, at the end of the game, you beat him in the dystopian future, but if you think about it, that wouldn't really do a whole lot, because it's in the future, so the horrible dystopian future is still going to happen, it just won't go on forever. That would be the case if you didn't meet up with a dentist or a White's past self. You take him with you to the dental compound in the future so you can break in. And while he's there, he gets a load of just how pathetic his future self really is. Seriously, that scene right after the final battle where Oral tells off his future self and calls him pathetic really is something. And having seen all this, Oral sets off on a completely different path in his life. And when you get back to the present, you get to see just that. As the credits roll, you get to walk around Auburn Pines and see just how things turned out. In this reality, not only is Oral White a good guy, but he even set up a peace treaty with the Repugians, saying that they could come through the Monster Gate once a year on Halloween to share in the candy. The thing I really like about this ending is it doesn't just explain stuff. While the credits are rolling, you get to go around and talk to everyone to see how stuff turned out. It's both satisfying and a really unique approach to wrapping things up. Although I gotta say, in terms of uniqueness, it's got nothing on the next entry. The way that the different endings work in the cave is truly interesting. At the beginning of the game, the cave says that very few people have ever left his depths, but he never really mentions why. You just assume that they all died or got lost, and while that may be true to an extent, that's not the full reason. You see, for one final task in the game, the gift shop clerk has all 3 of your character's objects of desire. He offers to give them to you so long as you find some other thing to trade to him for it. However, this time, you're robbing people. These people are the 3 people that you screwed over earlier in the night. They all somehow managed to turn out okay, but now you have to take away the one thing that they really cared about this entire night. However, considering all the atrocities you were literally forced to commit in order to progress earlier in the night, this isn't really that big of a deal. More like a final nail in the coffin than anything. However, after you get your object of desire and climb up the super long ladder, you disappear, and then it shows the last 2 slides of your cave paintings, solidifying the horrible things that you've done. And surprise, surprise, your characters don't make it. However, you can get a good ending as well by simply opting to return your object of desire to the gift shop and then heading up the ladder. I think the interesting part about this is that at no other point in the game have you had a choice in what you do, but now you actually do have a choice. I mean, the rest of the game kind of feels like a karma-based game like Epic Mickey, but you're forced to go down the evil route. The good endings also fill in the last 2 slides of the cave paintings. However, instead of the characters doing the horrible thing that they do, they stop at the last minute. It really is nice to see that in a game where you do such horrible stuff that you can end up redeeming yourself at the last minute. I guess the game shows it's only too late to turn good until you've already done the bad thing. And the characters that you do get the good ending with end up making it out of the cave. The cave has different monologues depending on when you got all good, all bad, or a mixed ending. They're all pretty epic, and I like that in the all good ending, he's actually humble for once in his life.
Path. I say we, of course, but I mean you. After all, I'm just a talking cave.
Overall, the ending to the cave was certainly an interesting one. You know, in Rabbids Go Home, it's kinda tough to choose who to root for. On one hand, you want the Rabbids to win because, well, you're playing as them, but on the other hand, you kinda want the humans to turn out okay, because it's clear that the Rabbids are not the good guys in this story. So I think that it's really cool that the ending of the game managed to find a route that made both sides happy. So the Rabbids get the final piece of their pile to the moon, and surprise, surprise, it doesn't work. What does come as a bit of a surprise is that the Verminators put a bunch of cannons right near the pile and shot thousands of bombs onto the base of it and blow it sky high. As a result, tons of the stuff falls off of the pile and the humans are reunited with their belongings. Well, most of them anyway. However, the Rabbids' ultimate goal wasn't in vain either, because the massive explosion on the pile shot them all the way into space and now they're orbiting the moon. This is the only video game ending I know of that seeks out a compromise between the 2 warring parties in the game. And considering the fact this is a game where you kind of want both sides to win, that's a pretty good ending. The ending to Little Inferno is probably the strangest ending on this list. Little Inferno is a game where you order a bunch of items from a catalog and then burn them in your fireplace. However, the game also has a story to it, cleverly told to you through people sending you letters. There's a girl named Sugar Plumps who sends you letters, who's a friend of yours who also has one of these Little Inferno entertainment fireplaces. Halfway through the game, she sends you a message telling you that her house is burning down. However, it's clear that she didn't die because she's still sending you letters after the fact. As the game goes on, she starts to get less and less goofy and more existential, to the point where she tells you that it's time for you to burn your house down. So you burn the only combination of 4 items in the game, and it causes everything to go crazy. And it burns your house down. This is where the ending really starts to get weird, because it allows you to go out and explore the world instead of just being stuck in front of your Little Inferno entertainment fireplace. You end up making it to the Tomorrow Corporation, which is not only the name of the company that made your fireplace, but also the name of the studio that made this game. You even meet up with the person who created the fireplace in the first place. And at the end, you meet up with the weatherman who's been talking about how the forecast is so cold, and he offers you a ride in his hot air balloon. and then the game just ends. This ending might not be as satisfying as a lot of the other endings, but it's so out of nowhere and bizarre that it had to be on here. It gives you a shock to the system and completely changes the gameplay to catch you off guard. They built this up earlier in the game with stuff like sugar plumps asking you if you ever tried to turn your head away from the fireplace. And this bizarre ending finally provides a payoff to all these insane ramblings. Like I said before, it might not be the most satisfying, but it is certainly the most bizarre. In Batman Arkham City, thanks to meddling around with the Titan formula in the previous game, the Joker's got some kind of deadly disease. And thanks to a forced blood transfusion, he's infected Batman with the disease as well. As you would imagine, the main goal of the game is to get the cure to this disease. Fast forward to the end of the game, and Batman finally gets his hands on the cure and debates whether or not he should give some of it to Joker. This decision might seem obvious to most. I mean, Joker's an evil psychopath. But everyone who knows about Batman knows that he never kills anyone. In Arkham Origins, they make a big deal about the fact that Batman actually saves the Joker's life. However, years upon years of the Joker's evil actions have really led Batman to question this line of thinking.
Every decision you've ever made ends with death and misery. People die. I stop you. You'll just break out and do it again.
Joker tries to wrestle the cure away from Batman, which results in it breaking. This leads to a few awesome lines of dialogue right before Joker dies.
Do you want to know something funny? Even after everything you've done, I would have saved you.
That actually is pretty funny.
Afterwards, Batman carries Joker's corpse out of the movie theater and literally everyone is shocked by what happened. Joker's goons, the police, everyone is completely caught off guard by this. While I've never really had that much exposure to Batman before playing the Arkham games, I know from hearing people online that the Joker dying is just something that doesn't happen. Both the music and the characters' reactions really make it feel like some fundamental rule of the universe has been broken. It almost makes you feel sad about the murderous clown dying, as crazy as that may sound. And Commissioner Gordon's line at the end asking Batman what the heck happened really mirrors the reaction of anyone who went into this without any spoilers. And just so you know, that's not my situation. I knew about this ending years before even playing Arkham City. But even with knowing about it in advance, this ending hit me hard enough to put it this high on the list. One of the biggest things that really sets Epic Mickey 2 apart from the original is the fact that it's a musical. Not every character in the game sings, it's mostly just the Mad Doctor. At the beginning of the game, he tries to paint himself as a reformed bad guy who wants to help Wasteland recover from the earthquake and stop all the aftershocks. But as time passes, he gets more and more suspicious until it's revealed, yeah, this guy is still evil. In my opinion, all the songs are great, and they are really varied. From the happy opening number, to the tragic lament, to the awesome villain song, to whatever the heck the Fall of Prescott was, all these songs are memorable in their own way. But let me tell you, none of them make as big of an emotional impact as the final one. Basically, after the final battle in the good ending, the Mad Doctor's pod is about to fall into the thinner, but Oswald goes back to save him. I mean, they did used to work together, there probably would be some emotional connections, but it was really just a trick for the Mad Doctor to drag Oswald and Mickey down with him into the thinner. But Mickey sprays the Doc's face with paint and he realizes just what a horrible mistake he's made. In one final act of redemption, he saves the two, and then we get this.
What a gift beyond measure you gave me. I can't believe you came back to save me. Oswald, how did you find the heart to share? After everything I've done to everyone, how could you? Why would you care?
He realizes the error of his ways, for real this time, and the Guardians make him a toon again, which is really all he ever wanted with this plan to begin with. He even recites some of the lyrics to the opening number in the game, only this time he actually means it. And after that, they have the montage of things that are different based on your actions throughout the game, just like in the first one. A lot of people say that Epic Mickey 2 is inferior to the original, and I agree with that, but one thing that the game certainly was better at than the original was how your decisions affect the world. I mean, in the original, they didn't have a beautiful story moment like this that was dependent on your actions throughout the game. It's so beautiful, in fact, that I'm just gonna go ahead and ignore that little cliffhanger that's never going to get resolved. It really does suck that Junction Point got shut down. Little Inferno's ending might have been the strangest and most out of nowhere on this list, but Bioshock Infinite's ending isn't too far behind in terms of strangeness. Everything starts off pretty straightforward. You meet up with Comstock, ready to kill him. He starts off yammering on about the typical stuff he goes on about, but then he brings up Elizabeth's deformed finger and asks Booker to explain it. Booker's understandably pissed off about this accusation, as well as, everything else Comstock's done in his life, and proceeds to drown Comstock in the fountain. Elizabeth, though, still wants answers, so in order to prove his innocence, Booker agrees to destroy the siphon that was taking away Elizabeth's power. Once the siphon is destroyed, that's when things really start to open up. Elizabeth opens up a tear with her newfound power, and boom, you're in Rapture. I've never played the original Bioshock, although I certainly would like to at some point, but even I can tell that this is Rapture. You end up at a tower which, as it turns out, connects to a bunch of different alternate universes. It eventually takes you back to Booker's baptism after the atrocities he committed at Wounded Knee, but he won't accept it because he knows that a simple dunk in the water isn't going to change what he's done. It then gets revealed that the whole "bring us the girl to pay off the debt" quote wasn't referring to Booker's mission throughout the game, but rather years ago when Booker gave up Elizabeth to Comstock. Oh yeah, that's right, it also revealed that Elizabeth was Booker's daughter and not Comstock's. And it gets revealed that Booker had second thoughts about giving up Elizabeth as he tried to wrestle her back from Comstock, and that's what resulted in her finger getting cut off in the tear. And here's probably the biggest reveal of all. At the very end, it's revealed that Booker and Comstock are actually the same guy. Comstock is just the version of Booker from another dimension who actually did accept the baptism after Wounded Knee. And at the very end, all the alternate versions of Elizabeth show up and drown Booker, thus permanently eliminating him and Comstock from existence. Which also causes all the versions of Elizabeth to fade away, considering the fact that, she is Booker's daughter. But considering all the horrible things that Comstock's done, that's probably for the best. I'll fully admit, the first time I saw this ending, I didn't entirely understand what was going on. But even then, I was still intrigued by the few reveals that I did understand, and I just generally thought that the ending looked really cool. This ending has an almost dreamlike state to it, unlike most of the rest of the game. I thought it was really interesting watching the analyses afterwards, but for the 15 minutes that I was experiencing the ending, I was completely mesmerized. Most games with multiple endings tend to have one ending be better than the others, but leave it to Saints Row the Third to have two different endings that are both equally satisfying. Throughout the game, you occasionally get the opportunity to make a choice at the end of a mission. Unlike a game like Infamous, though, these choices don't affect the story and they just affect what rewards you get. Fast forward to the final mission in the game entitled Three-Way, you actually do have to make a choice that impacts the story. At the end of the mission, you get a call from Angel telling you that Killbane's about to get on his private jet and flee Steelport. In other words, if you don't kill him now, you'll never get the chance again. However, before you can act on that, you get a call from Kia, Stag's second in command. Basically, she's got Shaundi, Viola, and Mayor Reynolds all tied up on Magarak Island and is gonna blow the place sky high and blame it on you if you don't go and stop her. So you're left with the toughest choice in the game, but both endings are good. If you choose to kill Killbane, then Cyrus gets the clearance that he needs to use the Daedalus and tear apart Steelport. But luckily, you kill Cyrus, and in the aftermath, the protagonist goes on TV and declares Steelport an independent city-state, free from the United States government's intervention. A city-state, mind you, that Pierce is in charge of. But if you choose the good guy route and save your friends, then you get something equally satisfying. Basically, as you're leaving the statue, Cyrus corners you and has all his men turn his guns on you. But Monica Hughes steps in and declares the Saints hero heroes and completely humiliates Cyrus. What she says is perfectly true though. Cyrus declared martial law and knocked down half the city, while the Saints saved a treasured monument. This may seem like a more humble ending, but it really isn't, because not only do the Saints make a movie with their newfound fame, but it also leads them on the path to Saints Row 4. You know, the game where they both take the White House and overthrow an alien empire. In the end, while there are a lot of games out there that have really satisfying endings, I can't think of any other game that gives you a choice between two really satisfying endings. And we're only at number 2. What could number 1 have in store? We've been talking a lot about decisions and multiple endings in this video, haven't we? Well, I say we finish this off with the ending to a game that's all about these kinds of decisions, Infamous 2. Basically, one of the main goals of the game is for Cole to go to New Marais so he can get more powerful to defeat this evil beast that's destroying cities and killing tons of people. And the final decision of the game is whether or not you want to kill the beast or if you want to team up with it. Now, this may seem like a simple, easy, obvious choice, but it's anything but. You see, another main plot point in the game is that there's this deadly, uncurable plague spreading throughout the United States, killing even more people than the Beast. What the Beast does throughout the game isn't mass murder, but rather he uses his powers like a ray sphere to create a giant explosion that kills anyone who's not a conduit, but the small amount of people who are conduits both gain superpowers and are cured of the plague. Since the plague is caused by ray sphere radiation, the RFI that Cole and the gang are going to use to kill the beast might also cure the plague, but there's no way to know for sure. And just to put the cherry on top of this cake of confusion, when the RFI goes off, it'll kill all conduits, not just the beast. In other words, unlike the karmic decisions in a lot of other games, and even some of the ones in this series, the evil option isn't just some soulless scumbag move. To paraphrase what Cole said, it might just be the only way that anyone ends up surviving this. This dilemma's so complicated, in fact, that while Nyx normally represents the evil path and Quo normally represents the hero path, they actually switch sides for this mission. Heck, in the evil ending, Cole isn't even portrayed as a selfish bad guy. He's just trying to help the newly activated conduits off their feet and stop more of the sick from dying in the only way he thinks will work. But you're not here to hear about the evil ending, you're here to hear about the good guy ending. One thing that I think's important to stress is that you don't know if everything's going to turn out alright in the good guy ending. Now before you say, oh, it's a video game, obviously everything's going to turn out alright, keep in mind, the original Infamous had a pretty depressing ending. Since, you know, Cole's dead, he doesn't narrate this final cutscene, Zeke does, and it's friggin' beautiful. I can't do it justice just by talking about it. I'm gonna show it right now.
We all just held our breath and watched as one by one, them monsters started to drop. Yeah, that RFI worked all right. News said even some folks overseas were keeling over. Poor bastards must have been conduits and didn't even know it. But it was worth it. 'Cause for the thousands that died, millions were gonna live. The plague, man, it was just gone. I could already hear people starting to party, just celebrating being alive. I thought my friend was gonna go down as an unsung hero. But here in New Marais, they knew what he had done for them. Who'd have guessed that the demon of Empire City would become the patron saint of New Marais? I wanted to say goodbye to him alone. He had been my best friend, and now he was gone. Sometimes I hear folks talking about conduits and humans like they're totally different. That's bullshit. Because there ain't nobody with more humanity than Cole McGrath.
That was amazing. I can't think of a better candidate for number 1 on this list. I'm sorry if showing the entire minute-and-a-half long clip was a bit much. I just feel like you need to see the entire ending for yourself in order to fully appreciate it. I mean, if I just described what happened, I don't think it really would have captured the entire feel of the ending, and it would have been a lot harder to justify putting at number 1. I'm Defoffalizer, and let me know if there are some really good video game endings that you guys like. I'd love to hear about it.